playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Bengals are listening to trade offers for perennial Pro Bowler Trey Hendrickson for me and Tom Pelissero. It's unclear if the NFL sack leader will be playing elsewhere in 2025, and a trade will be a real challenge, but time will tell. You know it's not a real challenge? In the offseason, when he doesn't want to be here and you're trying to make a trade for him. Most people that say, okay, I have to sell a house or sell a car, let me put it out on the market, and I'll take the best deal that's available.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
They're saying that he might be back for the start of the playoffs, but their playoff spot isn't secure with the Mariners bearing down on them and the wild card completely in flux. So this is like borderline red alert because the pitching staff has not been good. We have not seen good stuff from Framber Valdez. So Now that the back end of the bullpen is not good, I don't know what to make of it.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Good afternoon. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. We've got the NFL preseason wrapping up with a few games tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday, and we're closing in on week 0 of college football. We'll break it all down for you. We'll talk with Rob Donaldson here on the show, break down the latest in baseball. We also have, of course, football discussion here on the show. We're going to get to the latest with Matt Latovsky in some NFL discussion as we've got the final week of the preseason. Brad Thomas is also back on our program talking about the NFL's hot seat as well. Max Goodman weighs in on the Yankees. That and a whole lot more here on this Thursday edition of the show. But let's get started with the big news in sports betting. And it appears that FanDuel could be following suit just like Kalshi and Robinhood. You may remember the story we brought to you yesterday here on the show that Kalshi and Robinhood are now providing different options or what they're calling investments on sports, but not in a betting fashion. They're just basically calling it something different. Well, now FanDuel is making their way into the prediction market, and they're allowing outcomes on the S&P 500, NASDAQ 100, oil and gas, gold, and predictions on cryptocurrencies. Now, as of now, that's not sports. But if FanDuel does get involved in that, it could literally break everything that we know about sports betting here in the United States. We also don't know if Kalshi is going to be able to operate, of course, going forward in the future as the CFTC takes a look at their potential options and problems as well. But looks like FanDuel wants to jump in the bucket as well. Once upon a time, we thought we would never be able to bet on anything except for sports outcomes, and now definitely predictions on cryptocurrency prices and gold, etc. FanDuel getting ready to offer that as well. Okay, close call for Andy Reid, a story that just was reported recently that a lot of folks didn't even know. Back in 2024, Andy Reid was in his office and he was working alone, and apparently there was a stray bullet that he was sitting 15 feet away from where the bullet hit. The shot was fired from outside the Chiefs facility in Kansas City. It went through a wall, and it almost hit Andy Reid. That's kind of crazy. He now has bulletproof glass protecting him in the office. All 3 gunshots struck the facility that night. No one was injured, and there also was no indication of a targeted incident. But man, this could have been devastating had this happened. So Andy Reid, boy, I don't know why this came out, by the way, this week. This happened last year. Okay, injuries in the NFL, never want to see this. And Lamar Jackson was at practice. He had his foot stepped on yesterday. There was some panic initially. He left practice 40 minutes early. There were a lot of people worried about it, but it looks like he's okay and going to be able to practice later this week into next week. Also, the 49ers, another loss. With all these injuries they have to wide receiver, this is the last guy they could afford to lose. Demarcus Robinson suspended 3 games, according to Kyle Shanahan. He had a misdemeanor DUI charge. Juwan Jennings is hurt, of course. They've got a ton of issues at wide receiver. Meanwhile, Cam Ward getting ready to make his NFL debut. In case you missed it earlier this week, he got into a little scuffle with arguably the best defensive lineman in the NFL, in Jeffrey Simmons. And he talked about the experience of getting involved in a fight with someone 200 pounds heavier than him and said it was not fun.
Did I learn anything from it? Just strong as I would say. It was fun at the same time, and I think it was what we needed though. I mean, we love competing, especially me, Jeff, and I'm excited to have that man as my teammate. And so I mean, I can't wait to see what he do. Sundays I already know what he about, but I get to see the real thing coming soon.
Have y'all kidded about that since? What's the conversation been like post scuffle, if that's what you're gonna call it?
Well, that's me and Jeff relationship. I wake up, I get here, he damn near the first one I'm ready to talk to. So, and he the first one who come in my head every day at practice. So he lets me know. And so I'm excited to have him as my teammate. I mean, I think the biggest thing about Jeff is that he goes hard every play. Y'all get a chance to see it out here in practice, and he's somebody who you look up to as a young guy because of how hard they work, on and off the field in the community that Jeff does. But he's a great team player. He's a great teammate, and I'm just excited to I'm not the one getting hit by him.
New York Jets signed a couple of players as well, defensive players. They signed Harrison Phillips and Joanne Briggs, defensive tackles. Also, by the way, quick note, just to update on the Ravens practice today, Lamar Jackson not practicing, still a couple of weeks till first game of the season. Meanwhile, maybe now we know why Kyle Tucker has struggled so much in this first baseball season with the Chicago Cubs. Apparently, he had a fracture in his right hand, and that has affected him since the month of June, which does add up considering he hasn't done anything since the summer began in June and July. Now they're giving him a few days off, although Tucker is apparently fully healthy. Very complex issue here, it seems like, with Tucker. But here's Craig Counsell on the dynamics.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of out there. He injured his hand in a slide. Initial X-rays were negative. Sat out a day. I think we had an off day. Sat out a day. Pinch hit the next day, and then he was kind of sore but good to go. He was sore for a little while, but was able to play. We did some more imaging, and it showed a small fracture that was healing, and that's it. Is it possible that this has caused a kind of like through the playing through it, change some things? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's probably likely that at some point that happened. But he wanted to play.
Cubs have jumped back into the race, by the way. Thought they were out of it. They beat Milwaukee 3 games in a row. They'll play today at 2:20 Eastern. They beat the Brewers for their 3rd straight game. Bit of a surprise considering one team was going one direction and one team the other. 4-3 the final as they'll get ready to wrap up the series. Here's Christian Yelich on the struggles the Brewers have had, which have been rare.
Who cares? You play the games, right? You're going to win some, you're going to lose some, and you got to compete. Like, you're going to lose. It's how you lose is what matters. Like, if we were doing a bunch of stuff wrong, if we weren't competing the right way, if you're feeling sorry for yourself, that's one thing. If you're competing really hard and you're fighting and you're putting good swings on balls, you're doing the things that you need to be doing, and you still lose. That's the sport, right? Like, it's a lot of things in baseball are out of your control. You can do everything right in this game and not be rewarded for it. I'm happy with the way that we're competing. Are things not going our way right now? Sure. But that was coming. Like, we knew that was coming. Told you guys that was coming. It's how this sport works. Nobody's panicking. I know that would be a good narrative, and that would be like a cool thing to have out there. Like, just being full panic after losing 3 losses. Like, yeah, very good team. So are we.
Padres seem to be a good team, except for when they're playing the Dodgers. They take care of the Giants yesterday, 8-1. Manny Machado, Ryan O'Hearn hit home runs. Josh Bell homered, drove in 2 runs. Nationals beat the Mets 5-4. As far as the Yankees are concerned, a little bit of a roller coaster yesterday. Cam Schlittler took a perfect game into the 7th inning. Giancarlo Stanton also hit a pinch hit 2-run home run in the 10th. That gave the Yankees a 6-4 win, although Devin Williams a little shaky there yet again, but got out of it. All right, Pirates take 2 out of 3 from the Blue Jays. 2-1 win. Tommy Pham, a couple of runs driven in, and don't look now, but the Tigers completed a 3-game sweep against a team that they may have to face off with to get to the World Series. Tigers win 7-2. Charlie Morton, 8 strikeouts in 6 innings pitched. Coming up next, it's time to dive into the latest in, of course, the National Football League. We got the preseason action coming up, along with Matt Lutovsky. Don't go away.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
You can find odds for the Phoenix Mercury win the WNBA final. I'm saying it right now. Until I get Stewie back, and they can show me with Stewie, with Messerman, with Stewart, with John Quell, with Ionescu, with Phoenix, until I can see the Liberty look like the Liberty, which they have not been for a while, I'll be willing to say that Phoenix Mercury could make the WNBA finals.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Justin Rose has done it so many times in his career. That's like he's so good at everything. There's nothing that he's bad at. You know, every part of his game is at close to a elite level when it's good. And so when he had it going on this week, he's not scared, dude. When he gets that look in his eye, watch out.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Let's talk some NFL preseason football. It is the Steelers and the Panthers, and it is Matt Lutovsky joining us here on the show to break it all down. What could be better than that, Matt, as we get ready to wrap up the preseason? I guess I'm a little surprised. Some teams have, sort of indicated that maybe some players would play, and I wonder if we'll get a chance to see that tonight.
Yeah, you never know, right? I mean, normally the final week of preseason is fourth string fest, and we all kind of just suffer through it and endure. I know we do have at least one quarterback competition that's technically up for grabs, but with tonight's games, I don't know how much we're going to be looking at, I think probably the most interesting is what the Giants are doing in their quarterback situation. We know what they want to do going into week 1, but it's still been kind of fun to watch them throughout the preseason. So yeah, we got a couple interesting games tonight. That'll be, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of them, if anything.
The Steelers are 4.5-point favorites as they take on the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. Why? I'm not really sure, but that is the line. 4.5, total of 36.5. I just feel like taking underdogs throughout the preseason. It would have worked. In terms of the Steelers season, Matt, 8.5 is their win total. This has pretty much been static. Maybe some 8s early on. Definitely no 9s. I didn't see any 9s. So it feels like maybe a little bit of backing on Pittsburgh here. And remember, if they get 9 wins, they don't have to make the playoffs either. And that's not a stretch for the Steelers, who always seem to be in the mix.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 9 wins is what Mike Tomlin does, right? He doesn't finish below 500. So it would seem to make sense just based on history, based on the fact they have an elite defense, and based on the fact that, look, we don't know exactly what Aaron Rodgers still has in the tank or what he's going to bring to the table. And the Steelers actually did get decent quarterback play in the aggregate over the course of last season, but I still think the ceiling is certainly higher. The rest of their offense, you look at the skill players anyway, you got DK Metcalf, that's great. But the rest, it doesn't inspire a lot. Normally you're used to seeing a few more notable names in the Steelers offense. And, I don't know what exactly that's going to look like, because Aaron Rodgers can only do so much. But I think with the defense they have, the coaching they have, the infrastructure they have in place, I mean, 9 wins seems very doable, even in a tough division. And so I think they'll be a pretty good team. But if you're betting on that over, you're also kind of betting on Aaron Rodgers to stay healthy. And given his age, I think that can be a little bit of a concern.
Yeah, would agree. Not a concern for Bryce Young. It's been the play that's been the concern, but he played so well in the second half that a lot of folks feel like maybe the breakout is coming here. 3,200 passing yards on FanDuel, 18.5 passing touchdowns. That's a low number. If he just plays the whole season, he should get that. 30-plus passing touchdown is 7-1. Odds makers are telling us they're not bullish still, even with what they saw with Young in the second half.
Yeah, and I don't blame him. But look, he has the quote-unquote quarterback whisperer working with him for a second year. They went out, they invested their number 1 pick in a big-time wide receiver. So it's a little better around him. I think you hope he's more comfortable. But this was a guy who, let's face it, was benched. I mean, he was flat out benched. And look, he's made a nice little comeback, and that's exciting. But I think there are still a lot of question marks and a lot of concerns with him. And it's tough to bet on any of those overs, frankly. Like you said, the touchdowns is the one that seems the most doable. But, there's still a lot of question marks with him and this team as a whole that I wouldn't feel very comfortable with betting on anything Panthers related.
Yeah, and just FYI, 6.5 is the number for the Panthers going into the season. Not the lowest in the NFL, but probably like 1 tick above some of the other teams like New Orleans and the New York Jets and the New York Giants. I see it there, 6.5. Okay, so I assume one of those 3 quarterbacks has got to be playing tonight for the Giants for them to be 6.5-point favorites, and I'm not, again, sure why, because, I mean, aren't all 3 of their starting quarterbacks kind of backups in the NFL, to be honest? So if this is a Winston game, total 37.5, maybe an over comes in with some touchdowns and some picks as well. There's some discussion. Maybe Winston, this is just he plays tonight and that's it. Maybe gets cut before next week too. Quite frankly, I don't know what the Patriots have to prove here. They're a thin team on offense. I know that they're looking better in terms of who they got, but I don't expect New England to play anybody tonight.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I think this is kind of a go through the motions, get a look at guys for those final cut downs, final, practice squad spots. But yeah, the Giants are interesting. I know there's talk about will they trade Jameis Winston? I mean, Jackson Darts look great, which is great for the Giants, but it's been against some pretty vanilla defenses. Of course, it's the preseason, so I'll be interested to see if they play him and want to see what he can do in this situation. But at the very least, I think we'll get Jameis, and we'll see what he can do. I don't know if if they still view it as a competition for the backup spot or how exactly the Giants are viewing things behind Russell Wilson going into week 1. But I think most people would imagine they're going to start more than one quarterback at some point this season for whatever the reason, whether it's injury, whether it's poor play. So they need to see, what they have in these other guys and make sure that they feel comfortable with them if they need them at some point.
That's fair. Now, we've been talking about this. Interesting number for me, Matt, this season is New England at 8.5 wins, because if they have a much better season than last year, they still could easily go under this thing. So I know there's a lot of bullish on on New England. A lot of people who feel like they're going to win 9 games, maybe even 10. Are you in that camp, or do you think that it's a little bit too much too soon?
I think it's a little optimistic. I mean, like you said, I've been hearing it almost all offseason since the draft, since free agency. They got a new coach. There's a lot of things to like there, and I think they're certainly progressing in the right direction. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just missing something. I got a block. I just don't see it. I'm not quite as optimistic as others. The division isn't great outside of the Bills, so I think that fuels some of the optimism that hey, they can be the second best team in the division and therefore will win 8+ games. It's certainly possible. I think Mike Vrabel has proved he's a good coach. He can get the most out of his players, but at the same time, I just think they're lacking a little bit in the skill player department. And you're relying on some guys who have some shaky health histories there too to really bolster you around your young quarterback. I don't know if he's good enough to carry them at this point to that type of record. So I'm not quite there with some of the masses like you implied, but it'll be fun to watch because I think they're an interesting team that is moving in the right direction.
30 seconds to go, Matt. Any concern at all for the way the Bills played? I would suppose McDermott is going to really want to win this game coming up here after last week.
I guess I don't have that concern with a team like that's that established and, especially at the quarterback position. But that's another, if they're concerned, then I guess we should be concerned.
Fair enough. Matt, thanks for coming on.
All right, thank you.
Coming up next, we check in on the Eagles, Cowboys, and Dolphins on the Sound Off on the way.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Answer is this. 12-team, 3 wide receiver, you take Jamar Chase. In a 10-team league, though, where you have only 2 wide receivers to start, it's an interesting supply and demand situation with a roster like that. That is where the Bijan number 1 overall maybe comes into play, because you could take Bijan and then turn around. You're still getting 2 number 1 wide receivers in a 10-team league draft.
Fantasy sports today. Only on SportsGrid.
In extras, knocked out the Reds 6-5. This team doesn't lose. And the only thing I want to say, Tom, is I just hope they can continue this. Now, what does that mean? 40 games in a row? Of course we know it's not going to be the case. They are peaking right now. We've seen so many times. Baseball's a long season. Boy, if the Brewers are playing this baseball on September the 28th, watch out. But they are sensational right now.
Pro baseball today. Only on SportsGrid.
We're getting closer and closer to the start of the National Football League season as training camps wrap up, preseason wraps up. We'll get a better idea of who is on everyone's roster later this weekend. We'll go through that process and also hear from the defending world champions on this edition of the SportsGrid Sound Off. Well, it's been a heck of a party in Philadelphia, right? Winning a Super Bowl, coming back for another season, pretty much bringing everybody back from last year. That would include the quarterback, Jalen Hurts, who also would include the tush push, which is still going to be allowed in the National Football League. As the Eagles wrap up their training camp and their preseason, we didn't get a ton of looks at a lot of their key players, but Jalen Hurts seems just fine with that and says they're getting ready for the season opener.
Yeah, I think we had a really good offseason and a really good training camp, and being able to just build on the foundation that we've established over the years. And so I think we're headed in a good direction in that. We just want to continue to build. You know, I think for context of what training camp serves of, you want to try and find the identity. I'm not saying we're leaving here with an identity, but we know what we're capable of and we know the things that we need to work on. And so when you go into training camp, you know, you're trying new things and you're trying to expand your repertoire and build on new things. And you take the highs with the lows, knowing that you kind of know what direction you want to be in. And at some points, even I know for Coach Patullo, he's putting an emphasis on a lot of stuff he just wants to see. That doesn't necessarily mean that it'll, you know, come to light, you know, out the gate. It may come to light, you know, in the last half of the season or maybe in the playoffs. But it's just about building. And I think we did just that.
And the Cowboys are getting closer to the start of their regular season as well. No Micah Parsons still with the Cowboys, but head coach Brian Schottenheimer says it's not about one guy, it's about the team.
Well, to me, this is a team game. You know, I mean, like, I'm not going to sit here and say that any player is more important than any other player. I just started out the press conference saying that it's going to take all 53 guys, and that's why Tyler Smith's spending time with Tyler Booker. And, again, everybody has their thoughts and opinions and on the Micah situation. But, you know, to me, you know, what's going to make us special and what's going to allow us to win a Super Bowl would be when we're all performing. And we all get that it takes 53 plus in this league because you have elevations and things that you can do on game day with your practice squad guys and stuff like that. But, again, I think that the ultimate team game, that's the way I've always looked at it, and I don't see this situation any different.
Frustrated by having to answer questions about Micah over the past, it's been like 5-6 months, and that this has been ongoing and still?
No, honestly. I mean, I know you guys have to ask the questions, and I respect that and understand that. I think my tone hasn't changed. My answer hasn't really changed. I'm focused on the field. I'm focused on the guys that are working, and the business side of it's going to take care of itself. And but no, I mean, I could answer those questions all day long.
Speaking of pass rushers not named Micah Parsons, hey, guess what? Matthew Judon back in the NFL. Had a great run with the Patriots years ago. Said he's headed to South Florida, not for the beaches, not for the fun, but to get to work.
It ain't about, you know, kind of coming down here and enjoying myself and relaxing. I had enough time while everybody was at camp to relax and view. So it's about the work I put in and coming in here and hurrying up and getting acclimated with the system, learning kind of the locker room traditions and the culture that they building around here, and kind of just figuring out where I'm going to be, how I'm going to be, and how I'm going to play.
You seem to impress going right into team drills day one. What'd you like about what you did out there today?
We got to watch it. But yeah, it felt good. It felt good just to have cleats and a jersey back on. So I was happy about that. So that was the most impressive stuff. And just shout out to the organization, you know, whole Miami Dolphins culture, everybody here. They made it easy. It was more welcoming than anything. And so, you know, just from going out to practice for the first time in a very long time, they made it easy for me and comfortable, especially Coach Crow.
Speaking of the Dolphins, yesterday Mike McDaniel, the head coach, said many of his starters will play in the Dolphins' final preseason game. So we could get a view of some of those coming up. But also coming up, we'll be joined by Brad Thomas of NBC Sports Bet. We'll go over the very latest on the Dolphins odds and also take a look around the state as we check in on the Jacksonville Jaguars as well. You're watching NewsWire here on SportsGrid, and we'll be back after this quick break with more NFL odds discussion on SportsGrid. Don't go away.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Answer is this. 12-team, 3 wide receiver, you take Jamar Chase. In a 10-team league, though, where you have only 2 wide receivers to start, it's an interesting supply and demand situation with a roster like that. That is where the Bijan number 1 overall maybe comes into play, because you could take Bijan and then turn around. You're still getting 2 number 1 wide receivers in a 10-team league draft.
Fantasy sports today. Only on SportsGrid.
In extras, knocked out the Reds 6-5. This team doesn't lose. And the only thing I want to say, Tom, is I just hope they can continue this. Now, what does that mean? 40 games in a row? Of course we know it's not going to be the case. They are peaking right now. We've seen so many times. Baseball's a long season. Boy, if the Brewers are playing this baseball on September the 28th, watch out. But they are sensational right now.
Pro baseball today. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. We got Brad Thomas in from NBC Sports Bets. That time of the year, we're going over the National Football League. We got a lot to get to here with Brad, so let's not waste any time. As we begin, Brad, here in my neck of the woods, not far from you, the South Florida here, the Miami Dolphins. You know, certainly it has not been the best end of season and off season for them, and not the best regular season even last year. Man, what has gone on here with the Dolphins, Brad? Like, you know, they were yelling to get rid of Adam Gase. They were yelling to get rid of Brian Flores. Meanwhile, in the end, like, both those guys were fine as coaches. Is McDaniel been significantly better than them? Let's take a look. 28-23, 0-2 in the playoffs, and they haven't won a division. So what are we supposed to read into this going into McDaniel's final season here? Potentially final season.
Potentially. I think it's a big potentially. There's probably not many seats hotter than the one that he is on, right? You talked about his record, 28-23, but when you bring in a coach, especially an offensive mastermind, so to speak, you want to see progression in every single season. And all we've really been seeing is regression, right? This is a team that's supposed to be led by this genius offensive mind, and they were 31st in EPA per rush last season. They were 20th in EPA per play on offense. This is a team that it wasn't short of offensive talent. Tua, Achane, Waddle, Tyreek. There is no excuse, zero, zilch, that a team with this much talent should be 31st in EPA per rush. That is the second worst in the NFL. And make it even worse, this team had a really good defense, top 10 defense, but they couldn't get the job done where they should have had the upper hand. I don't think their schedule is terribly brutal, but I think a lot of it has to do with what's going on between the ears of Mike McDaniel. Everything lays with him. If he can execute appropriately on offense, this team will flourish, but I just don't trust it. I think people have figured him out. He's not the whiz kid that everyone thought he was going to be, and he might be gone this time next year.
Yeah, it was stunning to watch the Dolphins play. I thought, in particular, Brad, when Tua returned, because it seemed like at that point they had just decided to just water down the offense and, make Jonnu Smith the main target. Like, I get it. McDaniel, for Tua's health, was doing the right thing, but how can you operate a team like that, just throwing checkdowns? Their total's 8.5 to win the AFC East, 7-1, make playoffs 2-1. I'm assuming I don't know if you bet it, but I'm assuming your lean is the under then. 8.5.
Yeah, I do lean the under with this team. I get it. You want to protect Tua, but there are teams with worse schemes and worse quarterbacks who have been more effective. Excuse me. Their scheme was just so poor. They weren't getting any push from the offensive line, and they were afraid to take Devon Achane out of the situations and put in the other stable of backs in short yard situations. If you're not getting first downs, you're not scoring, and that's kind of what became the problem with this offense.
Yeah, would agree. Okay, so this is where I guess I'm just going to be completely wrong because I'm going to go down this road again with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Brad, I watch a lot of college football. I've watched it through the years. This guy looked like the bona fide best quarterback that's come out in college football in forever. And it just hasn't worked out in the NFL. And I understand there were some hiccups along the way, namely Urban Meyer. But I think this has got to be it, right? Like Liam Cohen made Baker Mayfield a star, and he put those receivers around him, and he looks great again. And I certainly hope he can do the same thing with Trevor Lawrence. I'm going to buy one more time.
Hey, there's no problem buying Trevor Lawrence this time around. Like, the dude has been the model of quarterback play since he was in the 6th grade. If you remember, the dude was on the news, national news, playing in a pro style offense in 6th grade, right? He's touchdown Jesus. He's the guy that everyone thought would be the next elite future Hall of Fame quarterback. And when he came into the league, he wasn't terrible, right? 2022 threw for over 4,100 yards, 25 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. But, as regimes change, quarterbacks lose that continuity. They also lose a little bit of confidence. But I really do like the addition of Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen has had a great offense everywhere he stopped. Like, let's not just say this was in Tampa Bay, right? Even when he was in college at Kentucky, their offense was phenomenal. It makes you show you how phenomenal it was. That was one of the highest scoring offenses in the SEC. Now look where Kentucky's at right now. And the jump that Baker Mayfield made between 2023 and 2024 was significant. Threw for about 4,000 yards in 2023. Last year, 4,500. But I want to talk about the touchdowns, the touchdown difference, 28 touchdowns to 41 the following year, and the completion percentage up by 7%. Why that's significant and why I think that will help Trevor Lawrence is because Trevor Lawrence has always been like the 65, 60 completion percentage guy. Liam Cohen schemes guys open. I was talking about a bet that I think would be fun for the futures market would be like Mike Evans, the most receiving touchdowns. I think you can also think that with Brian Thomas, because if you remember the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last season, when they got into the red zone and teams assumed they were going to be running the ball, they would scheme Mike Evans open and they would throw him the ball, hence the amount of touchdowns. Brian Thomas is in that very same vein. They've put a lot of really good pieces around Trevor Lawrence for him to have success. If he doesn't succeed, that's just on him. It's like our time to back up. Well, he's a $55 million quarterback. It's time to get off the train if he doesn't have success in this offense.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a little bullish on the Jaguars. I don't know why, but I kind of feel like that may be the coach to help them. We'll see. I don't know that any coach could help the 49ers right now at wide receiver. They could not have anticipated that. And I understand they were going to move on from Deebo Samuel, but like, what are they going to do here? Like, I know they knew Ayuk was out and Jawan Jennings got hurt, but they had to. I mean, these teams are smart. They had to know Demarcus Robinson was going to also get suspended. And I'm not going to worry about Watkins or Cowing. I mean, I'm assuming that they would have somebody else, but don't they need more than Ricky Pearsall, or is it just going to be George Kittle over and over again?
It's going to be the George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey show. Like, those are the two superstars of this team. They're going to force feed you. It's going to remind you kind of like the New England offense later in Gronk's career, where he was getting like the 12, 13, 14 targets per game. That's going to be George Kittle. Christian McCaffrey is going to be heavily involved in the pass game as he was before, with probably more emphasis with Christian McCaffrey than he was when he was healthy. Luckily for them, though, their schedule is really soft. It's a really easy schedule. All they have to do is play good defense and survive and get the ball to McCaffrey, get the ball to George Kittle. And then they get Ayuk back probably in like 2 months. Then they'll have Jennings probably back, and Demarcus Robinson's suspension will be over, and they'll be back to full strength. Bringing in Sky Moore is just a Band-Aid, in my opinion. The dude only had, 40 catches in his career. I don't think he's going to be the answer. They just needed more bodies in that wide receiver room, though.
Any lean on the total 10.5 for the season to win the Super Bowl, 19-1 to win the West, plus 155. A lot of these odds with the West are a little dicey with not knowing Stafford's status, I think.
Yep.
So, like, that would be the competition, I think, for them. But given all the injuries with the 49ers, maybe it's a wait and see.
I leaned their over, but even like their schedule might be easy, the easiest in the NFL, but you can get off to a really poor start because what you travel to Seattle, then you travel to New Orleans. Not saying these are games that they should lose, but when you're limited staff, you don't have good health on your team, you could run into some troubles. I don't want to take the over. I think they took into account too that their schedule is easy and made it the 10.5. I'm passing on it, but I slightly lean to the over.
Is there a single preseason game between tonight or all the way through Saturday that you've even looked at on the board to say, hey, I may be interested in anything at all? If not, we can just deal with college football this week. I don't blame you, but I'm just curious.
I kind of lean the Panthers here. I'm waiting to see what can happen with this line. We know that the Steelers are going to play the majority of their starters outside of Rodgers, DK, Hayward, and Watt. But I think that the market is just going to keep getting pushed forward and forward and forward. Opened around 3, 4.5. I think if it gets to 5, 5.5, I'm going to take a little bit on the Panthers because the Panthers, who are not playing their starters, have a lot of guys who are trying to make the roster. So they're going to be fighting very hard.
Yep, like it, Brad. Enjoy the games, and we'll catch up again very soon. Thanks for coming on NewsWire. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, Brad Thomas with us from NBC Sports Bet. Follow him on social media as well. Coming up next, the very latest in baseball. We've got afternoon baseball today, including a game between the Brewers and Cubs. It's a pretty big one at 2:20 Eastern. Rob Donaldson will join us to weigh in on that next.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
It should be illegal for Scottie Scheffler to play on the PGA Tour. This guy can't be stopped. Another victory at the BMW Championship. He has a chip on the 17th, which will go down in the history books. 82 feet, landed 60 feet short, and then rolled the rest of the way. Super exciting win again for Scheffler, who is not only the best golfer in the world, he's becoming one of the best golfers of all time.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. Now, obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The Giants are probably going to open up 1-5 on the season. So then you start to say the fans are getting angry. They just want to see Dart. The ownership's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we make the right move with Russ here. But then you have self-preservation mode with the general manager and the head coach where it almost seems like it's inevitable. Midway through the season, it's going to have to be Jackson Dart. Otherwise, what are we doing, Giants?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. We've got Rob Donaldson in the house from Underdog. And speaking of which, Rob, the underdog Chicago Cubs have come through the last few days. Let's get to the very latest and discuss the games today. We'll start off with this big one at Wrigley Field. Coming up, 2:20 Eastern, Brewers and Cubs. Quinn Priester has been great for the Brewers. Shota Imanaga has well for the Cubs. Can the Brewers get a game in this series?
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy that with Quinn Priester, you know, they essentially paid Red Sox at $1.25 for a guy who's got a sub 3.5 ERA and an 11-2 pitching record. It's pretty incredible, but in this game, I do kind of expect a little bit of negative regression for Quinn Priester as it pertains to kind of the next few starts here, because he's given up a lot of hard contact and not really paying for it. And on the other side, Shota Imanaga has also kind of been giving up his fair share of hard contact as of late as well. And when you do have a total this low, it almost kind of screams like, hey, take an over in some capacity. And the over I'm kind of liking here is actually through the first 5. And I really do think that we could see that pretty early on through that first 5 frames.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's going to be a good matchup. By the way, Brewers have fallen back here a little bit as favorites for the division, Rob, but I mean, it's still significantly. They've gone from a lot to still a lot, just not as much, minus 750. Look, you got to give at least the Cubs credit for hanging in there. But I mean, basically every game is almost like the biggest one of the season for them. And I think that includes today.
Yeah, and they kind of shot themselves in the foot at the deadline, because we'll see, how Owen Casey being brought up to the major league roster is actually going to affect them in terms of their playoff considerations. But they had trade chips and they decided to sit on them for the future. And you can kind of look at that 2 different ways. Obviously, the Padres are one of those teams that sold off a ton to get a 3-month span of Juan Soto, and that kind of backfired. But what happens if the Cubs kind of miss out on this really good team window because they didn't get those guys in the market? I think we're kind of seeing the initial effects of that, and it's just a matter of, hey, make it in the dance, and then we'll see what happens.
Fair enough. Padres back on their winning ways. Dodgers can't beat the Rockies. Really bizarre. But here we go again. Justin Verlander. I mean, these numbers are so ugly on the season, by the way, for him. Chasing down Hall of Fame numbers. 1-9 with a 4.23. Giants, Rob, let's be honest, they're cooked, okay? They're not making the postseason. They're not winning the division. But the Padres are minus 188, so we got to find something else here.
Yeah, and honestly, when you're looking at the Giants and the Padres in this game, I kind of like when we have these vintage names on the bumps. And I say vintage as if these guys are, well, Verlander definitely vintage. Dylan C is still kind of in that kind of territory of being a capable starter potentially. But when you do have 2 kind of reputable pitchers over the course of their careers, I do like taking under stabs, because kind of like what we saw with Max Scherzer going up against Clayton Kershaw in a Blue Jays Dodgers game. That was, 7 innings of just kind of pitching dominance. And I do feel like to an extent, we could see that Verlander has been pitching better as of late over the last 5 games. Dylan Cease has kind of been all over the place. But when you do have a total of 8, that's a pretty decent buffer. And I do like the under in this spot.
Meanwhile, the Padres have jumped back to plus 200 to win the division. Dodgers were minus 400 before they started this series with the Rockies, but this is going to shift a lot, I think, between now and the end of the season. So take the Padres at your own peril. I think they get one more series with the Dodgers before it's all over. Meanwhile, what's going on here, Rob? The Kansas City Royals are back in this thing? Is that what's going on? They play at 2:10 Eastern. They take on the Texas Rangers. They're a slight favorite. Rangers still hanging around, hoping to get back into the mix here. Michael Lorenzen starts for Kansas City. Pretty good matchup, total of 9.
Yeah, and honestly, when you're looking at the Royals, the start of the season, and if you kind of look at the total runs scored over the entire season, they're at the very bottom. But since the trade deadline and all this kind of tentative buying that they did, well, it suddenly paid off, and they can actually score runs now on top of actually having capable pitching most of the time. Now, Michael Lorenzen is one of those guys, and why I throw that most of the time qualifier in there, because he is a dude in this rotation who will get shelled on occasion. And from that side of things, Patrick Corbin has been experiencing a ton of negative regression as of late as well. And so I feel like it's a culmination of 2 improved offenses, 2 kind of the weaker starters in both rotations. And I actually do like taking a shot here on the over of 9 runs through the full game.
Marquee game tonight will take place in the Bronx as the Yankees take on the Red Sox. New York minus 152, total of 8.5. Lucas Giolito's had a nice season for Boston. He'll take on Louis Heel, who has a 5.14 earned run average. And you want a battle, you got it for the next few days in the Bronx. I would assume this is going to be close games throughout.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see a boatload of runs scored in a lot of these pitching matchups with who we have slated. And from the side of Luis Gil in this matchup, he's somebody that the velocity is down a tick since coming off the IL. Kind of the spin rate based on what I see from, like the pitching ninja accounts is down a little bit as well. And he has been getting shelled because of it. He's still attacking the zone, but not with the right stuff that we kind of are used to seeing from Luis Seal. And from that side of things, I actually do think the Red Sox at plus money today are definitely worth a stab in this game.
Now, what's interesting, really, is the Yankees with winning a few games in a row and winning some series. They're now 12 games back over 500, so they're plus 210 to win the division. With the Blue Jays falling back ever so slightly, they're minus 230. The Red Sox are 12-1. I guess, Rob, if I had to ask you an opinion on this without a bet, do you think that this is the way it finishes?
I actually do think the Red Sox are a more capable team down the stretch than the Yankees. And, whether or not that comes to fruition, it could come into fruition just in this series alone. I feel like the Red Sox will prevail just because they maybe don't have the the stopping power with the bats that the Yankees do, but the pitching just kind of feels a little bit more whole, which again is super weird because of all the Yankees deadline moves and what that we're supposed to bring to this team. But we just flat out haven't seen it. Even David Bednar last night gave up and blew a save against the Tampa Bay Rays. So I'm actually going to sign up for the Red Sox to finish in second place here.
All right, Rob, enjoy the rest of your week and the baseball weekend, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks for coming on NewsWire.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, man. Same to you.
Coming up next, he is synonymous with skateboarding. That, of course, is the greatest of all time. His name is Tony Hawk. And Tony Hawk was on Front Office Sports. We're going to play you back some of that interview that they had right here on SportsGrid. Also, don't forget you can download the SportsGrid app and scan it right now with your phone. There's the QR code available for iOS and Android. It is the SportsGrid app. We'll be back after this.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
It should be illegal for Scotty Scheffler to play on the PGA Tour. This guy can't be stopped. Another victory at the BMW Championship. He has a chip on the 17th, which will go down in the history books. 82 feet, landed 60 feet short, and then rolled the rest of the way. Super exciting win again for Scheffler, who is not only the best golfer in the world, he's becoming one of the best golfers of all time.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. And obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The Giants are probably going to open up 1-5 on the season. So then you start to say the fans are getting angry. They just want to see Dart. The ownership's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we'd make the right move with Russ here. But then you have self-preservation mode with the general manager and the head coach, where it almost seems like it's inevitable. Midway through the season, it's going to have to be Jackson Dart. Otherwise, what are we doing, Giants?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Each and every day here on SportsGrid, you could watch Front Office Sports. And in case you missed our show yesterday, you may have noticed we had the greatest skateboarder of all time, synonymous with the sport. His name is Tony Hawk, the future of skateboarding, extremely bright. He did an interview with our friends over at Front Office Sports yesterday. Here's a listen.
Well, few athletes are as universally recognized as the face of their sport outside of our next guest, as Tony Hawk is widely regarded as a pioneer of modern skateboarding. He became the first skateboarder to land a 900 back in 1999. Plus, we've got the video game, the Pro Skater video game, and so much more. So what's it like becoming the face of skateboarding? Well, let's ask him. Let's bring in Tony Hawk right now. Tony, good to have you here.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Well, let's talk about first about what you're doing with Julian's Auctions. Tell us about the 900 collection that you're auctioning off here.
Well, I didn't save a lot of my stuff through the decades of skating, but I did have some ones that seemed to remain around me, and I realized that I could get a collection together and maybe offer it to fans. Like I said, I'm not real sentimental about all this stuff, but I do have all the gear that I used at that event in X Games 1999, my skateboard, my shoes, my helmet, and my knee pads. And then I have a lot of other one-of-one items like these ones behind me. This is actually the first pro model I ever received that I rode.
Wow.
This one was a one-of-one that was actually caught in a house fire, so it's smoke damaged, and it's got a lot of history. And this is the 900 board right here.
Yeah, and Tony, when you look at the 90s and the X Games and the rise of skateboarding, primarily because of you, for these moments that you were able to accomplish such incredible feats, skateboarding was in a tremendous spot. But since then, we haven't heard as much. What have you been doing lately to help continue the rise of skateboarding? Maybe getting involved in a skateboarding league or investing in a league of any sort? What are you doing on your end to help continue to grow skateboarding?
Whatever I can. Advocacy, we have a foundation for public skate parks called the Skate Park Project. We've been doing that since 2002 and helped to open over 700 skate parks across the U.S. So, I mean, to be honest, I feel like that's probably the way I'm most effective in terms of using my voice and my recognition to open more facilities so that people have more access. But I mean, you'd be surprised. Skateboarding is as big as ever, and it's in the Olympics now. So it's more of where are you looking?
Well, yeah, I wanted to ask about that because you were definitely one of the people that really sort of advocated for skateboarding to be included in the Olympics, and it got it in 2020. What was that feeling like of finally getting it there?
Well, to be honest, I think for me it was about time. If you're not including a sport like skateboarding in the Olympics for considering how popular it is and how similar it is to, say, snowboarding, then you're just in denial of how big it really is. But I still think it'd be a great opportunity, so I was campaigning for it as much as I could. And yeah, it's in Tokyo, and then it was in Paris, and now it's going to be in LA, and hopefully there'll be more disciplines. So I feel like we're on the right track.
Yeah, skateboarding, as you mentioned, bigger than ever, especially on the world scale, and you're such a big part of that. What was the secret sauce from the video game to the iconic, just historic feats that you accomplished? Most people that grew up, like myself and even Baker, grew up a huge fan of Tony Hawk as an athlete, bigger than even skateboarding. What made you one of the biggest superstar athletes of your time to put skateboarding on the map? What do you think it was?
I think a lot of my name recognition comes from video games. That is not lost on me, and I would never discount how important that was to my career and my longevity. I mean, I was never going to quit skating, but the idea that people are even still interested in what I do in my late 50s is baffling to me. But I love it, and I'm living the dream. It's amazing.
Well, and we're seeing in college a lot of athletes now being able to utilize their name, image, and likeness, something you've been able to do throughout your entire career. What advice do you have for those in terms of building a brand and building your name as sort of something that you're sort of behind?
You got to keep moving. you got to keep trying to outdo what you did before. Keep challenging yourself. Longevity is one of the hardest things, especially in sports. And I just never quit. That's my secret. I never quit skating. I always try to keep improving my skills, and I think people at some point appreciated that.
Great Tony Hawk with Front Office Sports. Great stuff there. Coming up next, Brady Cannon will join us to go over the football contest show. Getting ready to launch. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. We'll be right back. In fact, what we'll do is we'll take a quick time out here on the show, and coming up next, we'll be joined by Brady Cannon, who's coming up next to talk more about his contest show and go over everything happening in the world of the National Football League. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid, and we'll be right back after these messages. Don't go away.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
It should be illegal for Scotty Scheffler to play on the PGA Tour. This guy can't be stopped. Another victory at the BMW Championship. He has a chip on the 17th, which will go down in the history books. 82 feet, landed 60 feet short, and then rolled the rest of the way. Super exciting win again for Scheffler, who is not only the best golfer in the world, he's becoming one of the best golfers of all time.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. Now, obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The Giants are probably going to open up 1-5 on the season. So then you start to say the fans are getting angry. They just want to see Dart. The ownership's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we make the right move with Russ here. But then you have self-preservation mode with the general manager and the head coach, where it almost seems like it's inevitable. Midway through the season, it's going to have to be Jackson Dart. Otherwise, what are we doing, Giants?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Pretty soon, a lot of you are going to be making picks against the spread, whether it's betting on sports, maybe participating in a contest or two, maybe you're just in a pool every single week. There's a way that you can get some help with that each and every week because Brady Cannon does a great show here on SportsGrid. It's the football contest show, and similar to a lot of you who may have to make picks against the spread with all of the teams, it does seem like on a weekly basis, Brady and his co-hosts James Salinas and Mike Pritchard are also weighing in on all the games as well and then telling you the games that they like the most. Brady, I hope I summarized that as best as I possibly can. I feel like that is the good picture of what the show is.
That's pretty well done, my friend, as usual. Yeah, absolutely. It'll kick off tomorrow, Friday, August 22nd. We're live from Circa Sports Radio Row. They're having their contest weekend, encouraging people to sign up. They have their former champions dinner, and so there's a lot of stuff going on, as is the case typically on weekends during football season at the Circa Resort and Casino in downtown Las Vegas. So we'll have a couple of episodes that'll be kind of preseason. You know, we'll get the lay of the land. We expect to talk to Derek Stevens. We'll talk with some folks, you know, like contest proxies. You know, a lot of people have that, you know, vague area, like, how do I sign up? You have to sign up in person, whether it's the Westgate Super Contest or the contests at Circa. You have to sign up here in person, fly out to Las Vegas, but then you can hire a proxy service. We recommend footballcontest.com. Maddie's a good friend of mine for a long time, one of the original guys in this business, and they'll turn in the picks for you every week. And then on the show, Mike and James and I, James, a former Super Contest champion, myself, won in 2011. So, you know, we think we have some decent advice as far as not only games against the spread and who we're liking a particular week and that type of thing, but also some contest experience. And oftentimes playing in the contests is different than just going to the window and making a typical bet. You know, there's game theory involved, and we'll cover Circa Survivor. Now there is the Super Contest Survivor. You have the Super Contest, of course, Circa Million, the Grandissimo, the big Survivor contest they have now. So we'll go over all that stuff. And 21 weeks in a row, every Friday, Saturday night, every weekend here, we'll have it on SportsGrid.
Yeah, for people who are unfamiliar, Brady, because I think that question does come up a lot, the first thing that you said is that for both of these contests, for people who want to participate, and by the way, there's still time to do so, with the Super Contest and the Circa Millions, you have to do it in person. What is the reasoning behind that? Because a lot of people would say to themselves, well, why can't I just have my buddy go sign me up. I'm assuming it has something to do with getting paid and tax purposes and all that.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. There are tax purposes, and I tell you what, hopefully you run into that problem. Hopefully you have to cash some tickets here and pay Uncle Sam. But yeah, there's that. They sign you up for a player's card, so you're in their system. You have a profile, you have passwords. It's all that type of thing, getting you signed up and officially registered in the system, if you will, on a lot of different levels, and certainly tax purposes is one of them. But then after that, it's pretty darn simple. And these proxy services are fantastic. They typically have websites. You can just make your selections there, and away you go.
So what do you think are some of the differences if you're participating, let's say, in both contests, like you guys will break down each week on the show? The easiest thing to say is, yeah, the lines will be different. But is it just that simple? Like, what is sort of the reasoning for picking in both contests?
Well, that's a great question, and there's a few different answers. The Circa Million has a quarterly prize, so every 4 weeks, if you went, 20-4 or whatever, 19-6, whatever that amounts to, I guess that's 5 games times 4 weeks, 20 picks in a quarter. I believe it's $100,000 if you do the best for just a 4-week period. The Westgate Super Contest has a mini contest every 3 weeks, and then a 6-week and a 9-week. So there's contests within the contest that are different on one side of the street for the other, meaning Circa versus Super Contest. So there's differences there. Like 1 week you might be playing for this, 1 week you might be playing for another thing. In the Circa Million, if things go south for you, you can actually pivot and try to be the worst. You can try to have the worst record, which is essentially doing the same thing. But they have what they call the booby prize. I believe that's $100,000 or maybe $150,000 if you finish in dead last. And I think they pay out the last 2 finishers, dead last and then second to last. So, and I did that one time. I got off to a slow start and I said, you know what? I'm going to go the other way. And I actually finished in the bottom 40. I was, 39 spots away from being dead last, which, like I say, it's the same thing as well. You're just going the other direction. But so a lot of different nuance between the two contests as far as the 5 picks against the spread. And of course, like you say, most obviously, sometimes you have a full point difference in the line. The lines for the Super Contest come out on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. The lines for the Circa Million come out on Thursdays at roughly 1 p.m. Eastern. So a lot of times there's some news between that window when this quarterback is out and this guy got injured, and you'll have a very different line in a Circa contest than you might from a Westgate Super Contest. So that plays into it as well.
Yeah, so I think the best question that I could come up with that we don't know the answer to, so I'm not putting you on the spot to give me an answer, but I'm just going to kind of recap with what happened last year. You guys and virtually any of the other people who were involved in this, who have done this for years, went about it the same way, which is understanding that in the National Football League, if you're picking 5 games against the spread, and generally speaking, you don't have 3 or 4 underdogs in your 5 picks, you're not going to do well. That's generally the way it goes, picking games in the NFL, the underdogs bark. It didn't happen last year, and it wasn't close. And so the question I think we all have to ask ourselves as analysts and sports bettors is that, is this going to get back to what it has been historically, or are we in for like a trend of favorites now running off years and years? I mean, if that happens, the sports books are not going to be happy. I tend to think we're headed back to where we were in the past, but I assume no one's going to change their approach based off one odd year.
Exactly right, I believe, and typically things do adjust. I don't know if something like that would last more than a season. I remember sports books in Las Vegas, and I believe for the most part around the country, actually lost money in the month of October. Think about that. The month of October, that is very football heavy. And how often do they lose money in a month like that on the NFL? Never. And to your point, it's because a ton of favorites, the majority, the public, the general public, the majority out there, the masses likes to bet on the favorite and the over in general. And those two sides, totals, what have you, cashed at an alarming rate last season. I like to always have a bit of variety on our contest card, Craig. When we won it in 2011, we had one guy who would pick nothing but favorites. We had one guy who would pick nothing but underdogs. So, I think one style of play, obviously, it's very hard to hit 65, 70%, which is what it takes to win these contests. So you kind of got to mix it up. You have a couple of picks maybe you really like, a couple of picks that you're not so sure about, and then maybe one pick that's just absolutely rogue. You're playing with a stale line and the line is adjusted 3 points the other direction. Maybe you stick with that because, so again, contest theory is different from the picks you make necessarily just going to the window with your regular bets. And we talk about all that on the contest show.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, if you looked at somebody's card and you saw them pick 5 favorites, you would think, okay, that person's going, 2 and 3 or 1 and 4 this week.
Yeah.
And it was the opposite last year. It was like 5 and 0s and 4 and 1s. All right, Brady, before you go, one more time, the show debuts tomorrow night. Tell us what we can expect on show number 1.
Yeah, this will be an introductory show. We hope to have Derek Stevens, the owner of the Circa Resort, to tell us about his contest. We'll introduce the whole program. And then it's every Friday thereafter, all the way through early January, the entire regular season of the NFL. We get you prepared for Las Vegas football contests and contests around the country.
All right, Brady, great catching up with you again. Have a great weekend. We'll see you again next week.
Thank you, my friend.
Max Goodman up next talking Yankees baseball.
Guess what, golfers? Vegas isn't just casinos and pool parties. In fact, there are 50 golf courses within a 15-mile radius of the Strip, all boasting beautiful desert oasis landscapes. So, if you're looking for a break from the action, consider hitting the links. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Giants are probably going to open up 1-5 on the season. So then you start to say the fans are getting angry. They just want to see Dart. The ownership's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we'd make the right move with Russ here. But then you have self-preservation mode with the general manager and the head coach where it almost seems like it's inevitable. Midway through the season, it's going to have to be Jackson Dart. Otherwise, what are we doing, Giants?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. Now, obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Let's check in with the New York Yankees and with Max Goodman from NJ.com. I got a chance to catch up with Max when the Yankees were in town visiting the Marlins. It was great to see Max and chat it up again and talk about the season. And man, things at that time for the Yankees were not going well, to say the least. And they didn't get much better for about a week. And now all of a sudden the tide has turned. And kind of it's like, opposite. The Marlins were playing their best baseball of the season. Now they've fallen back a little bit. The Yankees have jumped back on top. They're now 12 games over 500. And from what I saw last night, Max, look, this could very well be a bullpen that's going to do the high wire act every night. It feels like no matter who they throw out there, even if they bring back Rivera on one leg and retired for 15 years, I think that that's going to happen again. But the good news is again, 12 games over 500, moving ahead of Boston again.
Well, that first game in Miami, Craig, when they had all those new trade deadline toys and the 4 deadline day acquisitions blew that game. The 3 guys in the bullpen and then Caballero missing the ball in right in a crushing loss. And it's been a long list of those kind of, loss of the year type games for the Yankees this season. But like you said, they seemingly have turned a corner. I mean, 5-0 on the road against St. Louis and Tampa this past trip. And now they got the Red Sox coming to town. This is a huge series, 4 games against Boston. They can really, if they take 3 or 4 of this series, they can bury Boston in the wild card race and distance themselves a little bit. And hey, Toronto just lost 2 of 3 to the Pirates. So they're only 4 games back in the division. And with a month and a half to go, maybe that's not as far out of reach as it looked a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, we got Toronto here this weekend, so I'll get my first look at them in person this year. Max, when I've watched the Yankees-Red Sox games, each year is different, of course. This year has oddly been dominated a little bit by Boston. What has happened thus far through the first 4 or 5 months of the season that has led Boston to take as many wins as they have against the Yankees?
Oh, without going into each individual game, I think the biggest trend for the Yankees that's been debilitating for them is how they've played against teams in their division. I mean, they have a sub 500 record. I don't have it off the top of my head against other AL East teams, the worst in their division. And if they've played better against those clubs, maybe you throw in a couple more wins against Boston and Toronto over the course of this season, they'd be in first place right now. And a lot of those losses, you mentioned the bullpen, Devin Williams has doomed the Yankees in a lot of games so far this year. They've had collapses in the late innings. I know there was one game where Carlos Narvaez, the catcher for the Red Sox, who the Yankees traded over there this past winter, he showed his true self, and he's been proving himself in Boston this year. So we'll see if the Yankees end up regretting that one. But yeah, the Yankees got to play better against the teams in their division if they want to win this division this year and defend that title. They have a lot of division series coming up as well. They played the Orioles at the end of the year. They've got one more against Toronto, I believe. Maybe not, but these 4 against the Red Sox, if you play well and you take care of business against these other good teams, you're gonna be in better playoff position come October.
Yeah, of course, the Yankees do lead the all-time series, 1,246 to 1,033. That is the all-time record between these two teams. Last 5 postseason matchups, Red Sox lead 3-2, and there certainly is that wild card possibility, Max, that if the Jays hang on, there's that chance that we could see Boston and New York going toe-to-toe. I mean, that would be fantastic TV. I mean, that I can say.
Well, that's a sore subject for Yankees fans because of 2021 when the Yankees went up there and Garrett Cole gave up a lot of runs early on and they ended up losing that game. The Yankees haven't played in a wild card series yet since it became a 3, best of 3. So obviously they're wanting to win this division if they can. That's the best case scenario. But if you got to go and play another team, do they match up better with Boston than, I feel like the Yankees don't want to play Seattle, for instance, because of their pitching staff and how they've gotten better on offense. Maybe it ends up being Houston, for instance, if you're in that 3rd wild card spot, you got to play the 3rd division winner. There's a lot of different iterations here. We're still a little too early to start diving into the possible matchups, but it's going to be one of those teams. And again, the Yankees have to play better against the clubs that they've seen a lot in their division this year. I really can't overstate how important this series is. And if they can continue to play good baseball here, it's going to carry into September as well. But there's also a scenario where they stink it up this series and all that momentum where they've won 7 of their last 8. It could go away in one weekend at Yankee Stadium.
And the pitching matchups look pretty even on paper with the exception of Saturday, where I see Will Warren facing off against Garrett Crochet. Honestly, I think Rodon probably a big favorite over Dustin May, so that's advantage Yankees. But the other two, Fried, Bayo, Giolito, Hill tonight, you can even see the odds are sort of indicating that it could go either way tonight. Tomorrow, I would expect Boston to be favored on Saturday. I would expect the Yankees to be a heavy favorite on Sunday. You think that's fair?
Well, let's also bring up the fact that Max Fried has not been an ace for an extended stretch this summer. He has not pitched like the top shelf stuff that he did at the very beginning of this season. And he was an all-star caliber, possible Cy Young Award winner in his first year in the Yankees, in the Yankees rotation. And that has not been the case for these last several weeks. So this is a big start for him to try to figure things out. Will Warren's been very hit or miss. I mean, he can rattle off 6-7 innings against the best of them, but he also has the, he's susceptible to unraveling a little bit too. So big series for that rotation. It's been a topsy-turvy type of year for those guys. And if they can take the lead into 6th, 7th inning, they've got the pieces in the bullpen to figure it out and close out games. They just haven't been doing that on balance all season. I will say, Craig, if they keep hitting 9 homers per game, I think they're going to win a lot of games. So if they keep putting the ball in the seats, that'll be good for them.
54-0 would be my guess, something like that. Okay, so personal question. I'm going to put you on the spot before you go. I know you've been doing this now several years for the Yankees, and now spending some time on the road as much as allowed. I guess that's fair to say. What's your favorite road spot in 2025 this year? If you had to think back of all the trips that you've been, and you could use 2024 too, or even 23, probably open it up for everything. Your favorite spot where you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to this spot on the road.
Well, other than Miami, because then I get to see you. Let's think. I love Chicago. I went to Northwestern, so whether it's the White Sox or the Cubs, it's always a blast to be back there. LA, I had never been to Dodger Stadium before the World Series last fall, so I love going out there. Another favorite ballpark of mine is San Francisco, but I've never covered a game there. Seattle's great as well. I just love going on the road. Honestly, I'll go anywhere, Craig.
I know you will. Max, great catching up with you in person and here on NewsWire, and have a great weekend. Thanks again.
Thank you, Craig. Good to see you.
Coming up next, we wrap it all up with some last licks. Don't go away.
Guess what, golfers? Vegas isn't just casinos and pool parties. In fact, there are 50 golf courses within a 15-mile radius of the Strip, all boasting beautiful desert oasis landscapes. So, if you're looking for a break from the action, consider hitting the links. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Giants are probably going to open up 1-5 on the season. So then you start to say the fans are getting angry. They just want to see Dart. The ownership's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we'd make the right move with Russ here. But then you have self-preservation mode with the general manager and the head coach, where it almost seems like it's inevitable. Midway through the season, it's going to have to be Jackson Dart. Otherwise, what are we doing, Giants?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. Now, obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid as we get ready to wrap up the show. Wouldn't you know, Jake Paul getting ready for another fight. We'll tell you all about it. Also, John Cena says he's ready to call it a career. We have an exact date on that, and also a contract extension, a rare one for a backup quarterback in the National Football League. It's time now. We wrap up the show with some last licks. Yesterday, we found out that Tyson Bagent got a contract extension. It was a little bizarre. Got to keep it real. Not often do you see a backup quarterback sign a contract extension, let alone this late into the offseason. Well, my understanding is because Badgett was not drafted, even though he was a rookie a couple of years ago, he is eligible for an extension even after 2 years. That is an NFL rule. If you're undrafted, you can sign players to whatever you want. Now, he hasn't really done much in the NFL. He's looked pretty good in the preseason, but the Bears want to lock him up because he could become a restricted free agent after the season. But that really wasn't the story yesterday. The story was it appears Badgett did not have the easiest life, and neither did his family. He took to the podium at a press conference and was very emotional about the signing.
Yeah, I think that, a lot of people don't know this, but, my dad is he's my right-hand man, and he didn't even have running water until he was in high school. So there's definitely a lot of things and people that I think I could certainly help with this gift I've been blessed with. But yeah, just little things like that. I don't really know anybody back at home with any money, so yeah, it feels good. I mean, it's certainly a weight off my shoulders and my family's shoulders, and yeah.
And I'm sure the Bears are hopeful that they don't have to go to Badgett this season, but if they do, seems like they're getting a great human being, signs a 2-year deal, and gets $5 million a season. All right, are you ready for the next Jake Paul fight, folks? It's coming up, and there's a lot of tattoos involved, apparently. November the 14th from Atlanta, Georgia. This, once again, will be Jake Paul's biggest fight. I mean, you got to give him credit, is that, fight after fight, he's not fighting any, monsters, so to speak, but he does step up in competition each time. So is this the time that Jake Paul goes down? He'll fight Tank Davis. He is the next one up. This fight will be on Netflix. Of course, it'll be very heavily streamed and watched. And odds makers are telling us that once again, Paul will be a favorite in this fight, albeit very light. It looks like minus 120 or 130. Those are the at least early odds in this one. But Davis will give Paul certainly a run for his money. The last time we watched Paul fight, it was against Mike Tyson. It was really bizarre. I got to say, in watching that thing the whole entire time, something felt off with that fight. Hopefully this one will be a little bit better on Netflix, November 14th. Probably not for me, but maybe for you if you're into this Jake Paul universe. Finally, the wrestling universe is going to say farewell to John Cena. We got an official time here on this one. I know that they had been talking about the first week in December, second week in December. Did they even give a location of this fight yet? I know they were talking about it and doing different places, but it'll be Saturday night's main event on Saturday, December 13th, 2025. There were a lot of different cities that were involved in this. I think they wanted to have it at the TD Garden in Boston. I'm not sure if that's where it's going to be, but Cena has decided since his career, he came back to wrestle a little bit, and now who knows what's going on there with all the different guys they're bringing back there. But December the 13th, for those of you who are interested, that will be the final match for John Cena in the wrestling ring. Hall of Famer there as well. All right, no Hall of Famers playing tonight, most likely between the Carolina Panthers and Pittsburgh Steelers. As it stands right now, I don't know how they make these lines in the preseason. And by the way, the odds makers have not done a good job thus far. Steelers, 4.5-point favorites, 2 games tonight in the NFL preseason. There it is, total of 36.5 points. Not going to see Aaron Rodgers. Probably not going to see much of Bryce Young. But it's football. We'll be watching, that's for sure. Also, don't forget Patriots and Giants as well. Somehow they made the Giants 6.5-point favorites tonight. Again, don't know why. Is Jackson Dart playing? Is he that good? Is Russell Wilson playing? I don't know. Brian Daboll's playing for his job, so maybe that's the deal. 37.5 total there. All right, thanks to all of our guests here on the show today. We want to thank Matt Latovsky, also Brad Thomas from NBC Sports Bet, Rob Donaldson from Underdog, and Brady Cannon talking some football with us, as well as Max Goodman from NJ.com. Also, thanks to our director, Luke, and for my producer, Frank, I'm Craig Mish. We will wrap up our week of shows here on NewsWire tomorrow, getting you ready for week 0 of the college football season. Handful of games on Saturday. We'll have Rich Walsh from CBS Sports. He's got the call between Hawaii and Stanford. He'll be on our show tomorrow. So until then, have a great rest of your day here on SportsGrid. I'll see you then.